Early in the morning in Silicon Valley, the air was crisp, and there was a metallic tang from the towering high-tech buildings. Maya Johnson stepped off bus number 22, her hand tightly clutching the small palm of Zoe, her 6-year-old daughter. Maya's navy blue suit hugged her figure, carefully chosen to project professionalism, though her heels made her slightly unsteady on the sleek pavement. In a bright yellow sweater and glittery sneakers, Zoe skipped alongside her, singing a nursery rhyme of her invention. Maya smiled, but inside her, a storm raged. Today was no ordinary interview. ApexTech, the leading tech company with world-changing AI projects, was where Maya was staking her entire future. The lead engineer position on their new AI initiative was her chance to prove that a single mother, a black woman, could stand tall in an industry still dominated by faces unlike hers. She had spent weeks preparing, poring over every ApexTech report, rehearsing interview questions in front of the mirror, and even rewriting sample code to prepare for any technical challenge. But bringing Zoe along wasn't part of the plan. Keisha, Maya's best friend and usual babysitter, had been called away on a sudden work trip. With no other options, Maya had to bring her daughter, hoping Zoe's presence wouldn't be seen as unprofessional. The ApexTech building rose before them like a massive crystal, sunlight reflecting off its curved glass panels. Inside the lobby, an expansive space buzzed with touchscreens displaying AI graphs and employees in minimalist but expensive attire. Maya could feel the glances, some curious, some evaluative. As a black woman in this space, she was used to the sensation of being an outsider. She took a deep breath, gently squeezed Zoe's hand to steady herself, and approached the reception desk. "Hello, I'm Maya Johnson. I'm here for an interview for the lead engineer position," she said, her voice clear despite the thudding of her heart. The receptionist, a young woman with platinum hair and wireless earbuds, smiled professionally. "Welcome, Ms. Johnson. Please head up to the 3rd floor, conference room C12. The interview panel, including Mr. Matthews, is waiting." Maya nodded and accepted the visitor badge, but the name Matthews gave her pause. Ethan Matthews, CEO of ApexTech, the man she knew only from Forbes articles and inspiring TED Talks. But the name stirred an old, hazy memory, like a forgotten melody. She shook her head, telling herself it was just a coincidence. Her Ethan Matthews, who shared long nights of coding and wild dreams, had vanished from her life 7 years ago. It couldn't be him. She guided Zoe into the elevator, the numbers lighting up on the panel as if counting down to destiny. Zoe looked up at her mother, eyes wide and sparkling. "Mommy, is this where you're going to work? It looks like a spaceship." Maya chuckled, patting her daughter's head. "Maybe, sweetheart. But first, Mommy has to do well today. Can you sit quietly with me?" The elevator dinged, and the doors opened to a bright white hallway lined with frosted glass panels. Conference room C12 was at the end, its glass doors etched with the ApexTech logo. Maya took a deep breath, adjusted her hair, and stepped inside. A long steel table dominated the room. 3 people sat on the opposite side, 2 HR representatives, and a tall man with sandy blonde hair in a deep navy suit. He looked up, and time froze. Ethan Matthews. Not the anonymous CEO from the headlines, but her Ethan, the man who once sat beside her in a dusty warehouse coding until dawn, who held her hand under neon lights and called her his fire. His blue eyes, as sharp as ever, locked onto hers. Then his gaze dropped to Zoe, and he froze. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Blissfully unaware, Zoe was fiddling with her star-shaped necklace, a gift from Ethan after their first hackathon success, a unique design he had crafted himself. Maya had worn it through all those years, and when Zoe was born, she placed it around her daughter's neck as a reminder of what once was. She never imagined it would become a clue. "Hello, Ms. Johnson," Ethan said, his voice slightly hoarse, as if straining to stay composed. "Please, have a seat." Maya nodded, guiding Zoe to sit beside her, but her mind spun. He knows. Or does he just suspect? She tried to focus on the documents before her, the meticulously prepared materials, but Ethan's gaze never left Zoe, and she saw him staring at the necklace. His hands gripped the table's edge as if holding back a question he couldn't ask. The HR interviewer asked about Maya's experience with distributed AI systems. She answered smoothly, drawing from her rehearsals, though every word felt like it had to be pulled from somewhere deep. Ethan remained silent, nodding occasionally, but his eyes flicked constantly between Maya and Zoe. Oblivious to the tension, Zoe was doodling on a sheet of paper, the necklace glinting under the lights. "Please tell us more about your work on the visual aid project," another interviewer asked. Maya nodded, explaining the assistive app she had developed for the visually impaired. But halfway through, Ethan interrupted, his voice low and strained. "I'm sorry. Can we pause for a moment?" The room went silent. The HR interviewer looked at Ethan, surprised. Maya felt her chest tighten. Ethan stood up, walked toward the window, and turned his back to them. "Ms. Johnson, thank you for coming. I think we'll end the interview early today." Maya was stunned. "But I haven't finished my presentation." Ethan turned around, his expression complicated. Not anger, not indifference, but a deep, unspoken pain. "We'll be in touch." "Thank you." Maya rose to her feet, hands trembling as she gathered her documents. Zoe looked up innocently and asked, "Mommy, are we done?" Maya nodded, avoiding Ethan's gaze, and led her daughter out. The conference room door closed behind them, but she could feel his eyes still on her. As the elevator doors slid shut, Maya pulled Zoe into her arms, wondering if her 7-year-old secret had just been uncovered and what lay ahead for them now. The elevator chimed softly, yet the sound was not enough to pull Maya Johnson out of the current of thoughts flowing back to 7 years earlier. She stood in the cramped space, still gripping the small hand of Zoe, her 6-year-old daughter, who was humming a carefree tune. The indicator lights flickered, but before Maya's eyes, she no longer saw ApexTech's bright white corridor. Instead, she was in a rundown warehouse in Oakland, where she and Ethan Matthews had once sat shoulder to shoulder, tapping code beneath a flickering fluorescent lamp. The memories surged like an old film, vivid and painful. 7 years ago, Maya was only 21, an ambitious computer science student at the University of Berkeley. She had secured an internship at Nexus, a tiny startup with big dreams of artificial intelligence. Nexus had none of the glittering glass towers ApexTech boasted today. Their office was a converted warehouse, filled with whiteboards scrawled with formulas, stacks of pizza boxes, and catnaps grabbed on battered sofas. Maya loved that place, not for its glamour, but for the energy of dreamers who believed code could change the world. And at the center of that crowd stood Ethan Matthews. With tousled blonde hair and summer sky blue eyes, Ethan was one of the most talented programmers at Nexus. A few years older than Maya, he had dropped out of Stanford to pursue a startup. He did not speak often, but his words were sharp and fervent when he did. Maya remembered the first time they worked together, an image recognition AI project with only a 3-day deadline. On the second night, when the team was exhausted, Maya and Ethan stayed behind, sharing a can of ginger soda and arguing about algorithms until dawn. When the final code finally ran, Ethan looked at her and smiled, a smile that made her heart skip a beat. "You're the flame, Maya," he said. "Don't let anyone extinguish it." From then on, they became inseparable, not only at work, but also in ordinary moments. Long coding nights turned into early morning coffees, hurried jokes scribbled on whiteboards, hands clasped beneath neon lights at a late-night diner. Ethan called her the brain of Nexus, while Maya teased him as the visionary madman. They dreamed of a future where AI was a tool and a bridge to social justice, helping the disabled access education or supporting under-resourced communities. As a Black woman, Maya was passionate about using technology to break racial and economic barriers. Ethan backed her completely, not with hollow words, but by listening and placing her ideas at the heart of their projects. Yet their love story was not all light. As one of the few Black women at Nexus, Maya often sensed skeptical looks from investors or male colleagues. Once, during a pitch to a venture fund, a sponsor asked whether she had enough experience to lead the project, even though she had written most of the source code. Ethan had stood up for her, but Maya knew she had to fight twice as hard to prove her worth. She told herself that she could overcome anything with Ethan by her side. Then everything changed. Nexus secured significant investment, and the pressure skyrocketed. Ethan, now team lead, was sucked into endless meetings with investors in San Francisco, New York, and even London. Their late-night coding sessions dwindled. Phone calls grew brief. Ethan's gaze turned distant. Maya felt the void growing, yet she convinced herself it was only temporary, until one evening when she stood in her dorm bathroom holding a pregnancy test, staring at 2 red lines. She called Keisha, her best friend from high school, her voice trembling. "Keisha, I'm pregnant. It's Ethan's." "Practical as ever," Keisha asked right away. "Are you going to tell him?" Maya did not answer. She knew Ethan was drowning in pressure. She knew his dreams were bigger than the two of them. But she also knew that, as a Black woman, single motherhood would be a harsh challenge, especially in a tech industry that barely welcomed her. That night, she went to Nexus intending to tell Ethan, but he wasn't there. Without a word, he had flown to San Francisco for an emergency meeting. Day after day, Ethan grew more distant. Their last phone call lasted less than 2 minutes, his voice tired, promising to call back, but he never did. Maya waited 1 week, then 2, and finally deleted his number. She told herself it was protection, shielding Ethan from burden and herself from rejection's sting. She left Nexus, moved into a small apartment in Oakland, and began the journey of single motherhood. Keisha stayed by her side, helping her through sleepless nights and dwindling freelance contracts. Yet in Maya's heart, Ethan remained an unhealed wound, and the star-shaped necklace, his gift after their first hackathon, was a constant reminder of what they had lost. The elevator stopped, dragging Maya back to the present. Zoe looked up at her, eyes round and shining. "Mommy, why are you sad?" Maya smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. "I'm not sorry, sweetheart. Just thinking about some things." She stepped out of the elevator and led Zoe through ApexTech's lobby. Curious eyes still followed them, but Maya stood straight, shoulders squared. She did not know what Ethan had realized when he saw Zoe, but one thing was sure. She had come here to claim the future, not to relive the past. Yet, as she pushed open the glass doors to leave the building, a voice called behind her, low and urgent. "Maya, wait!" She turned, and there was Ethan, his face pale, eyes filled with questions he could not voice. Maya tightened her grip on Zoe's hand, bracing herself for a confrontation she had never imagined would come. The door to conference room C12 clicked shut behind Maya Johnson with a soft sound, but it echoed like an alarm in her mind. She stepped inside, hand clasped tightly around that of Zoe, her 6-year-old daughter, who was innocently gazing around with sparkling eyes. The ApexTech meeting room exuded a cold modernity. A gleaming steel table, black leather chairs, and frosted glass walls etched with the company's logo. Across from her sat three people: two HR representatives, a middle-aged woman with a polite smile, and a young man tapping notes into a tablet, and Ethan Matthews, CEO of ApexTech, her former lover, who just moments ago had locked eyes with the star-shaped necklace around Zoe's neck and nearly stopped Maya's heart. Maya took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had prepared meticulously for this interview, from researching ApexTech's AI projects to rehearsing responses to the most challenging questions. She knew she was qualified for the lead engineer role, but Ethan's presence, and Zoe's, made everything more complicated. She guided Zoe to a chair beside her, placed a notebook and pencil in front of her daughter for drawing, then turned to face the panel. "Thank you for having me," she said clearly, though her heart was racing. The HR woman, who introduced herself as Karen, began. "Ms. Johnson, we were very impressed with your resume. Could you share your experience working with distributed AI systems?" Maya nodded and began her response. She spoke about a recent freelance project where she optimized a startup's deep learning model, reducing processing time by 30% without sacrificing accuracy. She cited tools like TensorFlow and PyTorch, explaining how she had integrated clustering algorithms into the system. Karen nodded and took notes while the young man, David, asked a follow-up about scalability. Maya responded fluently, drawing on hours of mirror practice, but couldn't ignore Ethan's unusual silence. He sat in the center, his posture rigid, and his fingers tightly interlaced on the table. His sharp blue eyes, just as she remembered, weren't on her. They kept drifting down to Zoe. Unaware of the tension, the little girl was drawing a spaceship, the star-shaped necklace glinting every time she leaned forward. A chill ran down Maya's spine. She knew Ethan had recognized the necklace he had made by hand and given to her after their first hackathon at Nexus, a one-of-a-kind design. She had worn it for years during their relationship, and when Zoe was born, she placed it around her daughter's neck as a keepsake. Now, it felt like an accusation, a 7-year secret laid bare before his eyes. "Ms. Johnson," David interrupted her thoughts, "please elaborate on the visual aid project you contributed to. We heard it had a significant impact on the visually impaired community." Maya nodded, regaining her composure. Visual Aid is a mobile application designed to assist visually impaired individuals in navigating public spaces. I led the team that developed the object recognition algorithm, using convolutional neural networks to process real-time imagery. The app has been deployed in 12 cities, helping over 5,000 users. Her voice was steady, but her eyes unintentionally flicked to Ethan. He wasn't looking at her. His gaze was fixed on Zoe, and his hands were clenched tighter. Sensing the attention, Zoe looked up and smiled at Ethan. "I drew a spaceship," she chirped, holding up her paper. The necklace sparkled under the lights, and Maya saw Ethan inhale sharply. Karen smiled, but Ethan didn't. He abruptly stood up, his chair screeching against the floor. "Excuse me," he said hoarsely. "We need to pause." The room went silent. Karen and David exchanged surprised glances. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "Pause?" she repeated, trying to keep her voice calm. "I haven't finished my presentation." Ethan turned his back, walking toward the window and staring at the Silicon Valley skyline. "I know," he said, voice low and tense. "But let's end today." He didn't turn around, but Maya could see his shoulders trembling slightly, as if trying to contain a storm of emotion. Karen stepped in, her voice gentle. "Mr. Matthews, We still have several more questions. No, Ethan cut her off, his voice sharper. Thank you for coming, Ms. Johnson. We'll be in touch. He turned back, but he didn't look at Maya. Instead, he looked at Zoe, and in that moment, Maya saw a deep pain in his eyes. Not anger, not indifference, but the dawning of a truth he never expected. Maya stood, hands trembling, as she gathered her documents. She could feel Karen and David watching, not judging exactly, but full of curiosity. As a black woman in tech, she was used to scrutiny. But this time, Zoe's presence made her feel more exposed than ever. She worried they would see her as unprofessional for bringing her child to an interview, that her chances had vanished because of one unforeseen moment. Come on, Zoe, she said softly but firmly, helping her daughter up. Zoe, still cheerful, picked up her drawing and skipped after her mother. Mommy, that man looked sad, she whispered as they exited the room. Maya didn't answer. She just wanted to leave Ethan's eyes and the memories he carried. Maya felt a crushing weight in her chest as the conference room door closed. She led Zoe toward the elevator, trying to collect her thoughts. What had Ethan realized? Did he know Zoe was his daughter? And if he did, what would that change? She had built a life for herself and Zoe that didn't include him. But his eyes, full of pain and confusion, made her wonder if her 7-year secret could remain hidden any longer. The elevator opened into the lobby. Maya stepped out, still holding Zoe's hand, determined to leave ApexTech without looking back. But just as she reached the glass doors, a voice called out, low and urgent. Maya, wait. She stopped, her heart pounding. It was Ethan, standing just a few steps behind her, his face pale, eyes filled with questions yet unspoken. Zoe looked up, curious, and Maya tightened her grip on her daughter's hand, bracing herself for a confrontation she had never wished to face. The main lobby of ApexTech gleamed under LED lights and reflective glass panels, but the space suddenly felt suffocating to Maya Johnson. She stood near the glass doors, hand tightly holding Zoe's, ready to step out of the building and leave behind the chaos of the interview. Ethan Matthews's voice, Maya, wait, rang out behind her like a stone thrown into still water, rippling through emotions she had buried for 7 years. Maya froze, heart pounding, but she didn't turn around immediately. Zoe looked up at her with curious eyes and whispered, Mommy, who's calling you? Maya took a deep breath, steadying her voice. Just someone from the company, sweetheart. Stay here with me, okay? She turned to face Ethan. He stood a few paces away, face pale, his once bright blue eyes clouded with confusion and pain. His navy suit was still immaculate, but his hands were clenched as if holding back a storm. Employees passed through the lobby, a few slowing down, curious at the rare sight. The CEO of ApexTech, always calm during press briefings, now looking like a man completely lost. Maya, Ethan said, his voice low, almost pleading. We need to talk. Just 5 minutes. Maya tightened her grip on Zoe's hand, feeling as if the floor beneath her had tilted. Talk. After 7 years of silence, after he'd vanished and left her to face the hardest days of her life alone, she wanted to refuse, to walk away and pretend this moment had never happened. But Ethan's eyes, no longer carrying the confidence of a CEO, but the anguish of a man confronting a truth he couldn't avoid, stopped her. She looked down at Zoe, who was playing with the star-shaped necklace Ethan had given her years ago, and realized running was no longer an option. All right, Maya said, her voice firm but cold. 5 minutes. But not here. She didn't want curious eyes in the lobby, turning their conversation into gossip. As a black woman in tech, she was used to being scrutinized, and she wouldn't let Zoe become a spectacle. Ethan nodded and gestured toward a quiet corner near the waiting area, where leather chairs were nestled behind a frosted glass wall. "Over there," he said, then walked ahead, as if afraid that if he hesitated, Maya would change her mind. She followed, leading Zoe to a chair and setting her up with a notebook and pencil. "Zoe, keep drawing your spaceship, okay? Mommy needs to talk to that man for a bit." Zoe nodded and began doodling again, unaware of the emotional storm engulfing her mother. Maya turned back, standing a few steps from Ethan, arms crossed like a shield. "Talk," she said, eyes sharp. "What do you want?" Ethan inhaled deeply, as if sorting through chaos to find the right words. "The necklace," he began, voice trembling slightly. "I made it. For you. 7 years ago, after that hackathon at Nexus." He looked toward Zoe, then back at Maya. "The little girl?" "Zoe. She's my daughter, isn't she?" The question struck like a blade, sharp and merciless. Maya felt her breath catch, but she didn't look away. She had prepared for this moment, even if she never thought it would come. "Yes," she said, voice steady but defiant. "Zoe is your daughter. But that doesn't change anything, Ethan." Ethan stepped back as if her confirmation had landed like a punch. He ran a hand through his hair, a habit Maya remembered from their all-nighters. "It doesn't change anything?" he repeated, his voice rising, almost desperate. "Maya, I didn't know. I swear I didn't think you were pregnant. If I had..." "If you had what?" Maya cut in, her tone sharper than she intended. "You disappeared, Ethan. No call, no message. You left me alone, and I built a life for Zoe and me without you. What do you want now? Fatherhood rights just because you recognized a necklace?" Ethan shook his head, eyes red-rimmed. "No, it's not that. I was wrong to leave. I got pulled into Nexus and investor meetings, and I thought you were moving on and didn't need me. But I never meant to hurt you, Maya. And now, seeing Zoe..." His voice broke. "She looks like you. And me, too." Anger flared inside Maya, mixing with the old ache. "Don't," she said, raising a hand to stop him. "Don't say Zoe looks like you. You don't have that right. You weren't there when I gave birth to her, when I stayed up through her fevers, and when I worked myself to exhaustion, freelancing to support her. Zoe is mine, Ethan, not yours." Her words were a wall, but Ethan didn't retreat. He stepped closer, his voice low and pleading. "I know I don't deserve anything, Maya, but I want to make it right. If you'll let me, I want to be part of Zoe's life, and yours." Maya let out a bitter laugh. "Make it right? How? By kicking me out of the interview like I wasn't qualified? By showing up after 7 years and asking for a family you never knew existed?" Ethan lowered his head as if her words were too heavy to bear. "The interview. I'm sorry. I couldn't think clearly when I saw Zoe and realized..." He paused, taking a shaky breath. "But I don't want you to walk away. ApexTech needs you. I read your file last night, not knowing it was you. Your work on visual aid on AI systems is brilliant. I want you on the team, not because of Zoe, because you deserve it." Maya crossed her arms tighter, masking the stir of emotion inside. Ethan's offer was everything she had dreamed of. A chance to prove herself in tech and break the barriers many Black women faced. But she couldn't trust him. Not after everything. "Do you think I'll believe this isn't pity?" she asked coldly. "Is this not just guilt dressed up as opportunity?" "No," Ethan said firmly, his eyes unwavering. "I don't pity you. I respect you. And I want Zoe to have a better future, with both of us in it if you're willing." Maya searched his face for a trace of insincerity, but all she saw was pain and sincerity. She turned to look at Zoe, still drawing, blissfully unaware of the emotional battle behind her. Maya knew she couldn't decide impulsively, not when Zoe's future hung in the balance. "I need time," she said at last, voice soft but resolute. "And if I do accept a position here, I want a clear contract. No favoritism, no special treatment. I'll work based on merit, not history." Ethan nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "I promise. Just give me a chance. Not for me, but for Zoe." Maya said nothing. She turned and called, "Let's go, sweetheart." Zoe hopped off the chair and grabbed her mother's hand, and together they walked out of the lobby, leaving Ethan with questions that had no easy answers. As the glass doors shut behind them, Maya felt a new weight settle on her shoulders. Her 7-year secret was no longer hidden, and now she had to face a decision that could change everything. Evening in Oakland carried a cool breeze that slipped through the window of Maya Johnson's small apartment. Soft yellow light from a desk lamp spilled across the dining table, where Maya held a cup of chamomile tea gone cold. Zoe, her 6-year-old daughter, was fast asleep in her room, clutching a teddy bear and the sparkling star-shaped necklace. But Maya's mind was restless. The confrontation with Ethan Matthews in the ApexTech lobby that afternoon kept looming like a song she couldn't stop humming. His offer, a lead engineer position at ApexTech, her chance to prove her talent, was everything she had dreamed of, yet it came bound to a past she had spent 7 years trying to bury. Maya glanced at the phone on the table. The screen lit up with a message from her best friend, Keisha. "Call me as soon as Zoe's asleep. I need the ApexTech tea." A graphic designer and single mom, Keisha had always been Maya's rock. From struggling to raise Zoe to the moments she doubted herself in the cutthroat tech world, Maya picked up the phone and called. After one ring, Keisha's warm voice filled the line. "Hey girl, spill it. How was the interview? And what's up with that CEO dude?" Maya exhaled and recounted everything. The interrupted interview, Ethan's stunned look when he saw Zoe's necklace, the tense lobby conversation where she admitted Zoe was his child. She relayed Ethan's offer, a job, and his wish to be part of Zoe's life. When she finished, Keisha whistled. "Ooh, straight Hollywood drama. So what's the plan? Take the job or kick him out of your life all over again?" Maya rubbed her temples, feeling like she was standing at a crossroads. "I don't know, Keisha. The job at ApexTech is tremendous. They're leading in AI, and this role would let me head a project that could make a difference. But working with Ethan, after everything he did or didn't do, I'm not sure I can trust him." Keisha was silent a beat, then spoke, voice serious. "Listen, Maya, I know he hurt you. Disappearing when you needed him most isn't easy to forgive. But you're not taking the job for him. You're taking it for you, Zoe, and every black girl who needs to see someone like you at the top. Remember when I lost that design contract because they said I didn't fit the brand image? I fought to prove them wrong. You have to do the same." Maya nodded, though Keisha couldn't see her. As black women in creative and tech fields, both were used to working twice as hard for recognition. She remembered freelance projects where her skills were doubted, and the scrutinizing looks when she presented ideas at tech conferences. ApexTech could be her chance to shatter that ceiling, but at what cost? Working under Ethan, facing him daily, and worse, opening the door for him to step into Zoe's life? "But what about Zoe?" Maya asked, voice softer. "If I take the job, Ethan will want to be part of her life. I've told Zoe that her dad's far away, that he loves her, but can't be here. If I let Ethan in, I'll have to explain everything. And if he disappears again, Keisha, I can't let Zoe get hurt." Keisha sighed. "I get it. When my son asks about his dad, I'm scared too. But Zoe's a smart kid. She'll need the truth sooner or later. And about Ethan, you don't have to fling the door wide open. Set boundaries. If he wants to be a dad, let him prove it. As for the job, don't let the past block your future. You deserve that role, Maya. Don't let him or anyone convince you otherwise. Keisha's words blew away the fog in Maya's mind. She thought of Zoe, of nights teaching her basic coding on a tablet, of her daughter's dream to become a rocket scientist. She thought of herself, a single mother who'd fought through hard days to give Zoe a better life. ApexTech wasn't just a job. It was a chance to build a legacy for her and other Black women in tech. After hanging up, Maya sat in silence, gazing out the window. Streetlights flickered outside, reminding her of nights coding with Ethan at Nexus, when their dreams felt limitless. But she was no longer that 21-year-old girl. She was Maya Johnson, a skilled programmer and strong mother, and would not let the past dictate the future. The next morning, Maya called Ethan. When he answered, his voice held hope, tempered by caution. "Maya, have you thought about my offer?" "I have," she said firmly. "I'll take the job. But I have conditions. I want a clear contract. No favoritism, no special treatment. I work on my merits, not because of any personal ties." And about Zoe, knowing the truth doesn't make you her father overnight. You must prove worthy if you want to be part of her life. There was a pause. Then Ethan replied, voice quiet but sincere. "I agree. Thank you, Maya. I won't let you down." Maya ended the call, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. But a new pressure settled in. She was stepping into a new chapter, not only for her career, but for her family. Entering Zoe's room to wake her, seeing her daughter's radiant smile, Maya knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with all her strength, not for Ethan, but for Zoe and herself. On her first morning at ApexTech, Maya Johnson walked into the company's gleaming glass building with determination and anxiety. Early sunlight streamed through the towering panes, illuminating the main lobby where employees in minimalist attire moved with hive-like efficiency. Maya wore a deep blue suit, her curls pulled back neatly, and a brand-new ID badge glittered on her chest. She had signed a contract to become a lead engineer on ApexTech's new AI project, yet her conditions with Ethan Matthews, no favoritism, no special treatment, echoed in her mind. As a Black woman in tech, she knew every step would be scrutinized, and she was determined to prove her worth through skill alone. Zoe, her 6-year-old daughter, was not with her today. Keisha, Maya's best friend, had arranged school pickup so Maya could focus on her first day. Still, as she entered the elevator, Maya felt Zoe's presence, not just through the star-shaped necklace she once wore, now safely tucked in her bag, but through the weight of motherhood urging her to overcome every challenge. The elevator chimed and opened onto the 3rd floor, home to her AI team. Maya took a deep breath, straightened her jacket, and stepped in. The workspace was an open area with long desks, large monitors scrolling with source code, and the lively clack of keyboards. Maya's team consisted of 7 people, 4 engineers, 2 product designers, and 1 data analyst. They rose when she entered, their faces a mix of curiosity and caution. Maya smiled and introduced herself in a clear voice. "Good morning. I'm Maya Johnson, your new lead engineer. I look forward to working with all of you and taking this AI project to the next level. Today, we'll review the backlog and set our objectives." She began by asking each member about their roles and current challenges. Jake, a young engineer with flaming red hair, described performance issues in the deep learning model. Priya, the data analyst, pointed out inconsistent input data. Maya listened, took notes, and quickly proposed a plan. restructure the data pipeline, and test an optimization algorithm she had developed during freelance work. The team nodded, drawn into her energy. Yet Maya noticed wary looks from Jake and another engineer, Mark. She wondered whether it was ordinary skepticism toward a newcomer or the familiar bias against her race and gender. Maya led the team to a small conference room at noon to present a project roadmap. Using a whiteboard, she sketched diagrams and explained how to integrate AI modules to improve processing speed. Priya smiled, clearly impressed, but Mark posed a question in a slightly challenging tone. Will this work with real-time data? We tried something similar and failed. Maya kept her composure, citing a comparable project she had completed and supplying specific metrics. Mark nodded, but his gaze remained cold. Maya registered the challenge. She would have to earn his respect through results. When the meeting ended, Maya returned to her desk and checked her email. A message from Ethan appeared. Welcome to ApexTech, Maya. Let me know if you need any support. Have a great first day. She read it twice, emotions mixed. Ethan had kept his word. No direct interference. Yet his presence lingered like a shadow. She replied briefly, Thank you. All is well. She had no desire to open any doors beyond work. Late in the afternoon, Keisha called to say Zoe had been picked up and was playing at her house. Maya exhaled with relief, but just as she prepared to leave, Zoe unexpectedly appeared at the doorway, clutching a drawing with Keisha behind her. Surprise! Keisha laughed. Zoe wanted to show you her spaceship picture. Maya hugged Zoe, warmth flooding her, but she noticed a few colleagues watching. She worried Zoe's presence might be deemed unprofessional, especially as a black woman in an environment strict about image. At that moment, Ethan walked into the work area with coffee. He stopped when he saw Zoe, his expression softening. Hi, Zoe, he said, crouching to her eye level. That's a beautiful drawing. Do you like spaceships? Zoe nodded, beaming. I want to be a rocket scientist. Ethan smiled, yet his eyes flicked toward Maya as if asking something unspoken. Maya stood tall, her voice firm. Zoe's just stopping by for a moment. I was about to head out. Ethan nodded without pressing. I understand. I can show you the rocket model in the R&D lab next time if you'd like. Zoe squealed in delight, but Maya quickly interjected. Thanks, but we need to go. She escorted Zoe and Keisha to the elevator, feeling like she had crossed an invisible minefield. Inside the elevator, Keisha whispered. He looked at Zoe like she was his whole world. Are you sure you don't want to give him a chance? Maya shook her head. I'm not sure of anything, Keisha. But I can't let Zoe get attached until he's truly changed. Back home, Maya sat beside Zoe, listening to her describe the drawing. Yet her mind drifted back to Ethan, his eyes when he looked at Zoe, his promise of a shared future. She realized her first day at ApexTech was about more than work. It was the beginning of a journey she could not yet predict. When Zoe asked, Mommy, the man at your company is nice, isn't he? Maya smiled and hugged her daughter. We'll find out, sweetheart. One day at a time. Maya Johnson's small apartment in Oakland glowed warmly in the golden hue of sunset as the day's last rays filtered through the curtains and lit up the worn wooden floor. Maya sat on the sofa, holding a cup of chamomile tea, her eyes following Zoe, her 6-year-old daughter, who was lying on the rug, working on a new drawing with a set of bright-colored markers. The picture featured a spaceship and twinkling stars, a familiar theme in Zoe's endless imagination. But tonight, Maya sensed something different in the air. Zoe was quieter than usual, her tiny hands pausing between strokes as if she were deep in thought. The first day at ApexTech had come and gone with its challenges, From establishing authority in front of the engineering team to the tense moment when Ethan Matthews showed up near Zoe. Maya was still wrestling with her decision. Accept the job at ApexTech, allow Ethan proximity, yet keep emotional distance to protect Zoe and herself. She had built a stable life for them, fought past the doubting glances in tech as a black woman, and didn't want any risk to shake the foundation she had worked so hard to build. But Zoe, with a child's natural curiosity, was beginning to ask questions Maya could no longer avoid. "Mommy," Zoe said suddenly, without lifting her eyes from the drawing, "that man Ethan at your job. Who is he?" The question landed like a stone on a still lake, sending ripples through Maya's chest. She set her tea down and took a deep breath to steady herself. Zoe had seen Ethan twice, once during the interview and again during her surprise visit to ApexTech. Ethan had been gentle with her both times, but Maya had kept things surface level, careful not to let Zoe form any attachments. She had once told Zoe that her dad was far away, a wise man who loved rockets, but she had never named Ethan. Now, with Zoe's direct question, Maya knew the truth could no longer wait. She stood and sat down beside Zoe on the rug, gently brushing her daughter's curls aside. "Why do you ask about Ethan, sweetheart?" Maya asked softly, wanting to understand before going deeper. Zoe shrugged, but her eyes flickered, searching for words. "He knows about rockets, like the dad you talked about. And he looked at me funny. He was sad and happy." She stopped drawing and looked at Maya. "Is Ethan my daddy?" The question cut like a knife, sharp and undeniable. Maya felt her chest tighten, but she didn't look away. She had prepared for this moment, even if it had arrived sooner than expected. As a single mother, she had always tried to be honest with Zoe, but the truth about Ethan was more complex than any bedtime story. She took a deep breath and pulled Zoe into her lap, offering the security of touch before the weight of words. "Zoe, you are the smartest little girl I know," Maya began, her voice steady but warm. "And you deserve to know the truth. Ethan is your father." Zoe's eyes widened, her small hands tightening around a marker. "Mommy? Why didn't you tell me? Why isn't Daddy with us?" Her voice was a mixture of excitement and confusion, and Maya realized this was the first time Zoe was confronting a truth that could shake her small, safe world. Maya stroked Zoe's hair, choosing her words carefully. "When your dad and I met, we worked together. We built amazing things, like software that helps people. We loved each other. And then you came along, the most wonderful part of my life. But your dad had a lot going on, and I thought it would be better if I raised you on my own. I didn't tell him about you because I wanted to keep you safe and happy." Zoe furrowed her brow, processing. "But he didn't want me?" Her voice shrank, and Maya felt her heart break. This was her greatest fear, that Zoe would think she was unwanted. "No, baby, no," Maya said quickly, wrapping her tightly. "He didn't know about you. Because I didn't tell him. That was my choice, not his. Now that he knows, he wants to meet you, to be part of your life. But I want to take things slowly to ensure you're okay first." Zoe was quiet momentarily, then asked tremblingly, "What if he stays for a while and then leaves again? Like in the movies, when people make promises and forget them?" She looked down, fiddling with the star-shaped necklace, and Maya realized that even though Zoe was young, she was already beginning to feel the sting of absence never named. Maya gently lifted Zoe's chin and looked her in the eye. "I can't promise everything will be perfect, Zoe, but I promise I'll always be here to protect you. If your dad wants to be part of your life, he must prove he deserves it. And you get to choose what you want, When you're ready. Zoe nodded slowly, but her gaze remained tangled with emotion. I like Ethan. He knows about rockets. But I'm mad at him too, because he wasn't here when I was little. She hugged Maya tightly, and Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She kissed Zoe's forehead and whispered, "You have every right to feel mad, sweetheart. And I'll help you figure it out, one step at a time." That night, after Zoe had fallen asleep, Maya called Keisha and shared the conversation. Drawing on her own experience as a single mother, Keisha spoke gently. "Zoe's going to need time to process, Maya. She's strong, like her mama. But you also need to talk to Ethan. If he's serious, he needs to understand how Zoe feels." Maya nodded, even though Keisha couldn't see her. She knew her friend was right. As a black woman, Maya had learned to face life's obstacles without expecting help. But this time, her decisions had to account for more than just herself. Looking out the window at the blinking streetlights like stars, Maya felt a new resolve settle in. She would give Ethan a chance, but not for his sake, for Zoe. And because she wanted to teach her daughter that the truth, even when painful, was the path to becoming whole. The tech park in Silicon Valley gleamed under the early autumn sun, with ApexTech's blue and white flags fluttering in the breeze. The company's annual family festival was a significant event where employees brought their children to explore interactive tech exhibits, from autonomous robots to 3D printers. Maya Johnson entered the park, holding the hand of her 6-year-old daughter Zoe, who bounced with excitement. Zoe wore a t-shirt with a rocket printed, her eyes sparkling as she watched drones soaring in the sky. Maya, dressed in a white button-down and jeans, wore her ApexTech employee badge to maintain a calm smile, even as her stomach tightened with nerves. 2 weeks at ApexTech had proven Maya's capabilities. She had led the AI team through project milestones, earning the respect of most colleagues, though a few still kept their distance. But today, she wasn't there as a lead engineer, but as a mother, wanting Zoe to enjoy a carefree day. Yet after the conversation about Ethan Matthews, whom Zoe now knew was her father, Maya understood this festival wouldn't just be about games and drones. Ethan would be present, and Zoe, with the blend of curiosity and resentment only a child could hold, might want to be near him. "Mommy, look!" Zoe shouted, pointing to a booth where children built robots from programmable Lego blocks. Maya smiled and led her over. Zoe quickly got involved, teaming up with a boy to program a dancing robot. Maya stood to the side, observing, until her eyes swept the crowd and landed on Ethan. He wore a navy polo, speaking with a group of employees, but his gaze instantly found Maya and Zoe. He smiled faintly, then walked over. "Hi, Maya." "Hi, Zoe," Ethan said gently. He crouched down to Zoe's level. "You like robots, huh? I can help you program it to fly if you'd like." Zoe looked at him, her eyes bright but cautious. "Really? But I want it to dance first." Ethan chuckled and sat beside her, helping her tweak code on a small tablet. Maya stood a few steps away, arms crossed, emotions swirling. She had agreed to let Ethan interact with Zoe, but each moment like this stirred worry. Zoe was still upset with Ethan for not being there when she was younger, but her excitement at his presence showed she longed for a connection too. As a black woman, Maya had learned to protect Zoe from hurt, but she knew she couldn't shield her forever. She hoped Ethan would live up to his promise to earn their trust. The event buzzed with laughter, running children, and cheerful chatter. But midway through, a disruption occurred. The display screen suddenly went black at the main stage, where ApexTech was set to unveil a new AI assistant. 2 nearby engineers whispered in panic, "The render system crashed. If we don't fix it in 10 minutes, we're screwed." Maya, standing close, stepped in. "May I take a look?" The engineers, surprised, nodded. Maya grabbed a tablet, connected to the backup server, and quickly spotted the issue: a data pipeline bottleneck. She restructured the processing flow with a few lines of code and rebooted the system. The screen flickered back to life, just as Ethan stepped on stage. Looking down, he saw the notification restored by M. Johnson on the console, and a faint smile played on his lips. After the successful demo, the crowd applauded. Ethan scanned the crowd and found Maya. "You saved the whole presentation," he said with genuine admiration. "I knew you were good, but this was incredible." Maya shrugged, keeping her tone neutral. "I just did my job." But inside, she felt a flicker of pride. As a black woman in tech, moments like this were how she claimed her worth, not just to Ethan, but to the colleagues who had doubted her. Zoe ran over and tugged Ethan's hand. "Mr. Ethan, I finished the robot. Look." She tapped a button, and the robot danced a quirky little jig. Ethan clapped, laughing. "Amazing, Zoe. You'll be ApexTech's best engineer one day." Zoe beamed, then hesitated, looking from Ethan to Maya. "Mommy, can I talk to him for a minute?" Maya froze but nodded. "Okay, sweetheart. I'll be right over here." She stepped aside as Zoe and Ethan sat on a nearby bench. From a distance, Maya saw Zoe speaking, her hands moving animatedly, while Ethan listened intently, nodding. She couldn't hear the words, but the expression on Zoe's face, serious and a little wounded, told her everything. Zoe was sharing her tangled feelings. When they returned, Zoe gave Ethan a quick hug, then ran to Maya and whispered, "I told Daddy I was mad, but I still want him to stay." Maya hugged her daughter tightly, eyes stinging. Ethan approached, voice low. "Zoe said she wanted me to try." "I will, Maya. Not just for her, but for you too." Maya studied his face, searching for a lie, but saw only sincerity. She nodded. "Take it slow, Ethan. Zoe is my priority." He nodded back without argument. Maya walked Zoe home as the festival drew close, feeling slightly lighter. She realized that despite her doubts, she was opening a small door for Ethan, not for his sake, but for Zoe's. In the sunset glow, watching her daughter skip ahead, Maya, for the first time, felt a flicker of hope that their family, broken and scattered, might one day be whole again. One step at a time. The dim glow from Maya Johnson's computer screen illuminated her face as she sat in her office at ApexTech, fingers flying across the keyboard to adjust a code block for the AI project. It had been 3 weeks since the family festival, when Zoe began to open up to Ethan Matthews, and Maya, though still cautious, was gradually accepting his presence in their lives. She solidified her place within the engineering team, confidently leading the project and earning respect from most of her colleagues. But tonight, as the office slowly emptied, a chill from whispered rumors circulating through the company left her uneasy. During lunch break, Maya had overheard 2 engineers, Mark and Jake, talking near the coffee machine. "She's excellent, no doubt," Mark said with a smirk. "But she got in too easily. I mean, she's close with the big boss." Jake chuckled. "Yeah, not everyone gets personally invited by the CEO." Maya stood around the corner, coffee cup in hand, feeling as if she'd been stabbed. As a black woman in tech, she was no stranger to skepticism, but the implication that she'd been given her position due to her relationship with Ethan was intolerable. She decided to confront it directly. The next morning, Maya requested a meeting with Ethan in his office. Dressed in a crisp navy blue shirt, Ethan stood as she entered, concern in his eyes. "Maya, is everything okay? Is there an issue with the project?" Maya crossed her arms, her tone firm. "It's not about the project. I overheard rumors that I was only hired because of my connection to you." Please make this clear, Ethan. If I'm here, I want everyone to know it's because I earned it, not because of our past or Zoe. Ethan frowned, visibly stunned. Rumors? Maya, I had no idea. I hired you because of your qualifications, your work on visual aid, and your experience with distributed AI. I told HR you were a top candidate before I knew it was you. He paused, his gaze serious. But I'll take care of it. What do you want me to do? Maya took a breath. Call a team meeting. Make it clear I was hired on merit. And from now on, I want our interactions at work to be strictly professional. No exceptions. Ethan nodded immediately. Done. I'll call the meeting this afternoon. And Maya? I'm sorry this happened. Maya nodded, but said nothing further. She left the office feeling she had drawn a vital boundary, though the weight of the rumors still lingered. That afternoon, Ethan assembled the entire AI team. He stood at the front of the conference room, voice steady and clear. I want to clarify something. Maya Johnson was hired at ApexTech because of her outstanding qualifications. Her resume speaks for itself, and her contributions over the past 3 weeks have proven it. Any belief to the contrary is false and will not be tolerated. He scanned the room with a firm gaze, and Maya noticed that no one, including Mark, could meet his eyes. She felt slightly relieved, though she knew that genuine respect would come only with time and continued results. That evening, while checking her email at home, a message from Neurospark, a rival AI company, stunned her. Encrypted and formal, it offered her the role of creative director for their new AI lab, with double her current salary, company equity, and relocation support to Seattle. The message praised her work on visual aid and promised a bias-free environment. Maya read the email 3 times, her heart pounding. It was a chance to escape the whispers, to start fresh in a place untouched by Ethan's shadow. But it would also mean walking away from ApexTech, a meaningful project, and Oakland, Zoe's home. She called Keisha and explained everything. Keisha, soothing her son to sleep, listened intently. That's a hard offer to turn down, Maya. But think carefully. Neurospark might be a big opportunity, but ApexTech is where you're already making your mark. And what about Zoe? She's just starting to connect with Ethan. Moving now could confuse her. Maya rubbed her temples, overwhelmed. I know. But the rumors at ApexTech are exhausting, Keisha. I've spent my whole life proving I'm worthy, and now they're saying I only got in because of Ethan. Neurospark promises a clean environment, but how do I know that's true? Keisha sighed. Listen, girl, there's no such thing as a totally clean space in tech. The bias is everywhere, whether it's ApexTech or Neurospark. But you're changing ApexTech, Maya. You're a black woman leading a major AI project. You're paving the way for girls like Zoe, like my son. Every day you stay. If you walk away, you're letting people like Mark win. Is that what you want? Keisha's words pierced the fog in Maya's mind. She thought of Zoe, proudly telling people, my mom works with robots. She thought of her dream, not just personal success, but building tech that helped underserved communities like the one she grew up in. Leaving ApexTech might offer temporary comfort, but staying would affirm her worth, not just for herself, but for other black women in the industry. The next morning, Maya replied to Neurospark with a polite thank you and declined the offer. She arrived at ApexTech and met Ethan in a project meeting. As they finished reviewing progress, she paused at the door and spoke with quiet resolve. I'm staying because of this project, Zoe, and I believe in what we're building. But I need your word, Ethan. No more rumors like that. Ever. Ethan looked at her with deep respect. You have it, Maya, and I'm proud to have you on this team. Maya nodded and stepped out of the room, feeling a newfound strength. She knew the road ahead would still be hard, but she had chosen to stay. Not for Ethan, for herself. And for Zoe, the rooftop of ApexTech, perched atop the company's gleaming glass tower, was a rare oasis amid the relentless pulse of Silicon Valley. On a late autumn evening, the space had been transformed. Paper lanterns floated in the breeze, casting a warm golden glow. A small table stood in the center, draped in white linen, with two elegantly arranged sushi plates and a pot of fragrant jasmine tea. Maya Johnson, dressed in a teal sweater and jeans, stepped out of the elevator, her heart pounding as she entered the scene. This wasn't just a casual meeting. Ethan Matthews, who had invited her and Zoe for a special evening, stood by the railing, gazing over the glittering skyline. Maya held Zoe's hand. Her 6-year-old daughter wore a rocket-themed t-shirt and clutched her signature star necklace. Since their honest conversation about Ethan and the bonding moments at the ApexTech family fair, Zoe had started calling him Dad in her unfiltered, childlike joy. But Maya kept an invisible wall between them, guarding her heart from old wounds. She had turned down Neurospark's lucrative offer not for Ethan, but for her dream and Zoe's future. And yet, as Ethan turned with that gentle but unwavering gaze, Maya felt that wall tremble. "Hi, Maya." "Hi, Zoe." Ethan greeted them with a soft smile. He wore a simple white shirt and gray trousers, a far cry from the polished image of a tech CEO. "Thank you both for coming. I wanted to do something special tonight." "Sushi!" Zoe squealed, running to the table. "Mom, there's salmon!" Maya smiled as Zoe took her seat, but her eyes remained locked on Ethan. "What is this, Ethan? I thought you just wanted to talk about Zoe." Ethan nodded and gestured for her to sit about Zoe and us. "I want to do this the right way, Maya." He sat across from her but didn't rush. Instead, he poured tea for all three of them, letting Zoe excitedly chatter about her new drawing before easing into the deeper matter. As Zoe became absorbed with her sushi plate, Ethan took a breath and looked at Maya, his voice steady. "Maya, I know I can't change the past. I left when you needed me most and didn't know about Zoe. That's on me, and I'll carry that regret for the rest of my life. But these past few weeks, working near you, watching you lead the AI team, seeing Zoe smile, I've realized something. I never stopped loving you." His words swept over her like wind, disturbing long-buried memories. She remembered late nights at Nexus Labs, sharing ginger soda and dreaming of a more just future. She remembered his smile when she cracked a tough algorithm and the ache when he disappeared. As a black woman, Maya had taught herself to build armor, but here, in front of Ethan, her heart began to stir. "Ethan," she said softly but firmly, "love isn't enough to erase 7 years. I built a life for Zoe and me. I don't know if I can trust you again." Ethan nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I understand. I'm not asking for forgiveness overnight. I'm asking for a chance to prove I can be the kind of man you and Zoe deserve. Not Ethan, the CEO, but Ethan, the guy who used to code through sunrise beside you." Maya studied him, searching for deception, but all she saw was sincerity. She thought of Zoe, how the girl had started smiling more when Ethan was around. She thought of herself, of the years she'd told herself that love was a luxury she couldn't afford. As a black woman in tech, she had faced bias and doubt at every turn, but she also knew that real love, if nurtured, could be a source of power. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice trembling, "afraid that if I open my heart again, I'll get hurt. Worse, that Zoe will." Ethan reached across the table but paused before touching her hand, honoring her boundaries. "I'm scared too, Maya. I'm afraid I'm not good enough for either of you. But I want to try, not out of guilt, but because I believe in us." The silence between them deepened, not empty, but full of meaning. Only Zoe's cheerful humming over sushi filled the air. Maya glanced at her daughter, catching a mischievous smile. Mom and Dad told me about Mars. He knows so much. Maya laughed, and at that moment, something in her cracked open. She turned back to Ethan, and, for the first time in 7 years, allowed herself to feel hope. Okay, she said quietly, but clearly. We can try. But slowly, Ethan. And if you hurt Zoe, I won't forgive you. Ethan smiled, a grin laced with genuine relief. Thank you, Maya. I promise. We'll take it one step at a time. He stood, walked to her side, leaned down, and gently kissed her forehead when she didn't step away. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't demanding. It was full of memory and promise. Zoe giggled from the table. Mom's blushing. Maya laughed, pulling Zoe into her arms, and in that moment, she felt a connection she had never dared to hope for. She looked at Ethan, standing there, his eyes full of love and quiet resolve. As a black woman, she knew that their love, interracial and tested, would draw glances, questions, and prejudice. But tonight, beneath the lanterns, she chose to believe they could weather it. Zoe skipped between them as they left the rooftop, holding their hands and babbling about Mars. Maya's heart felt lighter than it had in years. She knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would not be easy, but this time, she wouldn't be walking it alone. Morning light filtered through the windows of Maya Johnson's small Oakland apartment, casting a soft glow on the dining table, where 6-year-old Zoe carefully sketched a spaceship with colored pencils. In a teal sweater, Maya stood by the kitchen, brewing coffee, smiling as she listened to Zoe hum a self-composed tune. 3 months had passed since that rooftop evening at ApexTech, where Maya had opened her heart and agreed to give Ethan Matthews a chance to rebuild what had once been lost. Since then, their lives had slowly changed, not with grand gestures, but through small, steady moments, like the twinkling stars in Zoe's drawings. Ethan had become a familiar presence in Zoe's world. Twice a week, he picked her up from school, read science books to her before bed, and patiently answered her endless questions about the universe. Though Zoe had once resented him for not being there, she now called him Dad warmly, leaving Maya both moved and wary. As a black woman, Maya had learned to shield Zoe from pain, and though Ethan had shown unwavering commitment, the fear lingered that he might one day disappear again, as he had 7 years ago. But every time she watched him teach Zoe how to code a simple game on a tablet, she felt a fragile hope bloom inside her. Maybe this time would be different. At ApexTech, Maya continued to shine. She led the AI team to complete a prototype of a next-gen virtual assistant, earning internal acclaim. But today, an even greater opportunity awaited. Evelyn Grant, a silver-haired board member with sharp eyes and sharper instincts, had requested to meet Maya on the 17th floor, where ApexTech's biggest strategies were shaped. Dressed in a deep blue suit, Maya stepped into the meeting room, heart pounding. In a crimson blazer, Evelyn stood to greet her with a smile. Good morning, Maya. Please, have a seat. Evelyn didn't waste time. We're building a new AI lab, focused on solutions for education and healthcare. I want you to lead it. Complete creative control, your budget, your team. What do you think? Maya blinked, stunned. This wasn't just a promotion. It was a dream come true. A chance to use technology to serve communities like the one she grew up in, where black children rarely had access to STEM opportunities. What about my current team? She asked carefully. Evelyn raised a brow. They'll follow you if you want. I've already spoken with Priya and a few others, and they're excited. This decision is entirely yours, Maya, and it has nothing to do with Ethan. Maya nodded, sensing the weight of this offer. As a black woman, she knew this opportunity wasn't just a recognition of talent. It was a responsibility. I accept, she said, her voice steady. Evelyn smiled. Good. I knew I had chosen the right person. That evening, Maya and Zoe visited Ethan's modern apartment with expansive windows overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Ethan had cooked dinner, spaghetti and salad, Zoe's favorites. Maya shared Evelyn's offer as Zoe played in the living room with a coding toy Ethan had given her. Ethan listened, eyes lighting with pride. Maya, this is what you were born to do. You're going to change the world with that lab. Maya smiled, then teased. You're not threatened? I'm about to outrank you in the company. Ethan laughed. Threatened? I'm proud of you. ApexTech is lucky to have you. After dinner, with Zoe yawning and tucked into the guest room bed, Ethan led Maya to the balcony. Beneath city lights' shimmer, he opened a small box. Inside was a simple silver ring engraved with the words, "For the years lost, and forever to come." Maya, he said, voice trembling slightly. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to spend the rest of my life making it right, for you and Zoe. Will you marry me? Maya froze, eyes misting over. She thought of their journey, from long coding nights at Nexus, through the ache of years apart, to the recent months of rebuilding trust. As a black woman, she knew their love, interracial, scarred by history, would still draw stares and skepticism. But Ethan had proven himself through action, not just words. Yes, she whispered, voice choked. Yes, Ethan. He slipped the ring on her finger, stood, and pulled her into a long, fierce embrace. From the living room doorway, Zoe, who hadn't fallen asleep, ran out and shouted, Mom said yes. Dad, she said, yes. She leaped between them, and the three embraced, laughing under the golden lights. Maya felt her heart overflow, not because everything was perfect, but because they had chosen each other, scars and all. As they stepped back inside, Maya looked at Ethan and Zoe, thinking of the new AI lab and her vision for Zoe's future and future generations. She knew challenges would remain, but now they were a family, ready to face whatever came together, one step at a time. ApexTech's rooftop, where Maya Johnson and Ethan Matthews once rekindled their bond, now glowed beneath the sunset, adorned with white ribbons and purple orchids for their wedding. Maya, wearing a simple silk gown that hugged her form, stepped out of the elevator hand in hand with 7-year-old Zoe, her flower girl. Zoe's teal, sparkling dress and star-shaped necklace gleamed with her radiant smile. Ethan stood at the end of the aisle in a deep navy suit, his eyes alight with love and gratitude. A year had passed since the proposal, and now they stood here, not merely as a couple, but as a family. The ceremony was modest yet warm, attended by Keisha, Maya's best friend, board member Evelyn Grant, and a handful of close colleagues. Keisha, dazzling in red, hugged Maya before the vows and whispered, You did it, girl. From single mom to this, you're a symbol of strength. Maya's eyes shimmered, knowing her journey as a black woman in tech would never have been possible without Keisha's support. When Maya and Ethan exchanged vows, Zoe stood between them, holding both hands. I promise to love and cherish you both, not only today, but forever, Ethan said, trembling as he shifted his gaze from Maya to Zoe. Drawing on the resilience that had carried her through long years of hardship, Maya replied, I promise to build a future with you, not because of the past, but because of what we can become together. The guests applauded, and Zoe squealed, Now we're a real family. Laughter rang out, dissolving the last shadows of their 7-year separation. After the wedding, Maya and Ethan moved into a new house in Oakland, close to Maya's old apartment, so that Zoe could keep her sense of home. The house had a small garden where Zoe planted tomatoes, and Ethan built a wooden rocket model for her. Each morning, Maya brewed coffee, Ethan flipped pancakes, and Zoe chattered about her dream of becoming a space scientist. Life wasn't perfect. There were squabbles over schedules and work-worn days, but it brimmed with love and commitment. At ApexTech, Maya's AI lab launched a free educational platform that used a virtual assistant to teach children in underserved communities coding. Named Star Code in Zoe's honor, it rolled out to 20 schools across Oakland and San Francisco, giving thousands of students, most children of color, access to STEM. At the platform's debut, Maya stood on stage, recounting her journey. From a young programmer at Nexus, through years of single motherhood, to leadership at ApexTech. "I stand here not only for myself," she declared, her voice carrying, "but for girls like my daughter, like the girl I once was, who need to see they can conquer every dream." The audience rose in a standing ovation, and Evelyn Grant nodded proudly from the front row. Now 7, Zoe began writing her first app, a simple space travel game, under Maya and Ethan's guidance. In a school essay, she called them her superheroes, making Maya laugh. "She thinks we're Avengers," Maya told Ethan one evening as they sat on the sofa with Zoe dozing between them. Ethan kissed her hair and whispered, "You are a superhero." As an interracial couple, Maya and Ethan still met with curious glances and murmurs at tech events. Yet Maya, armed with the resilience of a black woman who had fought prejudice her whole life, and Ethan, committed to honoring their family, faced every challenge united. They spoke together at conferences about the importance of diversity in tech, and Maya became a role model for many young women, especially black women, entering the field. One evening, standing on their balcony, Maya gazed over the sparkling city while Ethan wrapped his arms around her. "What are you thinking?" he asked. She smiled softly. "How far we've come. I once thought I'd never have this. A family, a career, a legacy. But we did it, one step at a time." Ethan kissed her shoulder. "And we'll keep going, together." From inside, Zoe dashed out with a tablet, shouting, "Mom, Dad, my game works!" They laughed, pulling her into a hug, and Maya's heart felt whole under the moonlight. Their journey, from separation and scars to love and family, proved that genuine love always finds its way home, no matter how time and secrets can divide.